But yeah, and the last thing I wanted to ask you about was the death adder. How did it get its name?
Oh yeah, the death adder. So it's an early dramatization of death adder, DEAF, because death adders are a ambush predator. So they're one of the only highly venomous snakes in Australia that will stay dead still, submerged in leaf litter or sand or whatever the substrate is, and they will lie dead still. And when a prey item comes close enough, they've got a really cool lure on their tail, which they
caudal lure, right?
Caudal lure, caudal meaning tail, and it's a group of scales on the end of the tail that usually is a different color to the rest of the snake. The rest of the snake will be really camouflaged in the leaf litter, and then you'll have this black or grey or yellow tip of the tail. And what they'll do is they'll wriggle it like a worm in front of their face, and then that will attract things like birds, mice, lizards, anything that would prey on a worm. Comes over close enough and bang, fastest striking snake in Australia, grabs the prey item. Now, when people came across death adders versus other snakes, death adders would just lie there in crypsis, which means cryptic behavior, so hidden. And they would just lie there because if they move, they're not a very fast snake at getting away or anything. They're designed to sit and wait.
Ironically, right? They can strike at like a 50th of a second, but they can't move very quickly.
Yes, they can't actually slither away very quickly. So they're designed to strike out and grab prey items. Whereas our other snakes, you take a brown snake, they're actually on the move. They're terrestrial foraging snakes where they'll actively forage for their prey. They have great eyesight. They see a rodent, they're on the scent trail, and they'll track that rodent down and kill it and eat it.
I think you showed that in one of your videos, right? You had the snake, for some reason, it had no idea that you were right above it and you were filming it, and it was like looking around, putting its head in crevices between pieces of mud and everything, right? Looking for prey.
Yeah, that is in one of my videos where that was actually a piece of footage supplied to me by my friend Seren. He was on a field trip and he saw a dugite actually, or him and 8 of his classmates saw a dugite. They all stood around it, at a safe distance and just videoed it. And this snake was like digging, trying to forage for whatever it was after, probably in that sandy scenario, probably lizards or something like that. But it's an active foraging snake. So when people came across active foraging snakes, the snake would either dart off or it might become defensive if it was cornered or something like that.
So it was crazy to see it actually doing those behaviors, right? You're just like, what, it's just ignoring us or it doesn't know we're here and it's just going about its business.
That particular snake was just on the scent trail, something hard. It was locked onto whatever it was smelling in the ground, and it was using its face to actually dig the soft sand away and get into these little holes, maybe where a lizard was burrowed under the sand or something like that. So it was in active foraging mode, whereas you've got death adders who will lie there still. So when people came across a death adder, they could get as close as they wanted to it, and they thought the animal was deaf. They're like, oh, it can't hear us coming. All these other snakes can hear us coming, and they take off.
Yeah.
Death adder will stay there dead still because it's trying to rely on cryptic behavior and be as still as possible and as hidden as possible. So they thought the snake was deaf, and then they called it the death adder. Obviously, over the years, that didn't sound cool enough, and it was, discovered that these snakes are deadly. They do have dangerously venomous venom. So then the name was somehow got dramatized to death adder. Now, in today's context, when people hear death adder, isn't that the scariest sounding snake alive?
It's not an adder that I want to meet in a dark alley.
No, that's it. Like, you put death in an animal's name, people are going to think it's a lot more deadly or a lot more dangerous than it really is. And I say in many ways, death adders are a lot less dangerous to be around because you can literally walk right up to them and they're not going to do anything to you.
So you would have to literally pick them up, and that's when they would be like, whoa, okay.
Well, a highly defensive individual, maybe getting back to what I was saying about temperaments, a defensive individual, if you stood right next to it, it might strike out and bite in defense because it's scared that you're going to harm it. Whereas generally what they're going to do is just lie dead still and wait for you to leave it alone. Therein lies a small risk where some people can step on them unknowingly. and I've actually been photographing another snake species before, on a gorge wall, just on a rock wall. And it was just a python. It slithered off the wall and went to make a run for it, and I've grabbed it by the tail and pulled it back, uncovering a death adder only a meter from where I was standing to photograph. And
so
I was
just like, wait your turn.
I was so happy. I totally forgot about the common Stimson's python and let it go, let it slither off. And I was like, wow, you just uncovered this amazing death adder, which I was looking for. And I had to settle for the python. But to put that into context is I was there for a good half an hour just stepping around, and I could have stood on it.
And it stayed there.
And it stayed there for, the half an hour that I was near it. It stayed there dead still in ambush.
Yeah.
Potentially could see me the whole time. But then again, it was nighttime. I had a head torch on.
Are they the hardest ones that you've had to try and track down because of crypsis, the lack of running away when you get close? Because I imagine that almost the easiest snake to find is the one that moves the most, right? Whether it's because it's hunting or because you drive across on a road and you see it go by, or you scare it away. It's like, all right, there it is, boom. But if it's just sitting there quietly and it camouflages in perfectly with the leaf litter or the sand, you're kind of like, this is a needle in a haystack.
Correct. Death adders are one of the hardest snakes to come across, but at night time they do move around. So during the day they'll either be sheltering or they'll be in ambush.
Yep.
At night time, that's when they use the cover of darkness to actually move to different shelter sites. So I have come across them active at night, and I've only ever come across two that were lying. One was basking beside a rock about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it actually wasn't camouflaged, and the other one I found, I dragged the other snake over the top of it, and it uncovered it from the leaf litter, which was I was brutal.
Like, you must have been thinking, like, don't give away my position, don't do it.
Nah, he would have been sitting there going, oh, this guy doesn't notice me. But yeah.
Can you use their tracks as well? Like, I imagine at night and during the day, you'd be able to see in some of these sandy places in particular, certain tracks that would allow you to find the animal and track them down, right?
You'd think so, but it never happens. You see the tracks, but those tracks can be, if it's not windy, those tracks could have been made from the night before or the day before or maybe 3 days before. So just because you see some tracks going into a bush doesn't mean the snake's going to be there, unfortunately. But
fuck.